finish your training. Tips.
Because you'd rather avoid admitting you enjoy this for the shallow and meaningless fucking key jangling it clearly is.
Again, Mauler, people are allowed to like things that you don't like. Again, and this is just coming off as a cope, man. This is just coming off as how dare you people like this. Don't you know I dislike it and I'm like some sort of god of criticism or some shit? I don't know what you're trying to pose yourself as in this, but it just comes off kind of a weak, honestly. It's a little sad. It's like people like things you don't. You're allowed to dislike them, but it just comes off you're really struggling. Just like, how dare they? How dare they? Move on, man. Grow up. Because, Mauler actually did a video that was 45 minutes long, and it's making the rounds as well. Star Wars cannot grow up. And, I know he didn't like how I didn't cover his entire 6-hour Doctor Strange video. So you know what? We can probably go ahead and cover his whole Star Wars video, because, yeah, it still is a lot, but it's not as bad. And I know, it seemed like we got some Mauler fans in here. I'm just going to go ahead and say, hey, guys, I'm going to go ahead and watch this, and I will be as fair as possible. I do not like his review methods, but we'll see. We will see. If it just like disagreements and like points of view, I'm not gonna have a whole lot to say. It's possible gonna have bad takes. If it has any bullying or something like that, I'm gonna have to point it out. And also, like, I know a lot of the EFAP fans that like to hang out on this channel. Guys, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. You like to act like I bring up Mauler all the time, when this is literally the second time I've covered one of his videos. It's not that much. He doesn't pop up that much. He occasionally pops up in, like, a group stream or something, like Friday Night Tights or something. But that's about it. But anyways, Star Wars cannot grow up. I'm assuming he's just gonna crap on the sequel trilogy, but I don't know. I don't know. And I'll also be blunt. There are things that I dislike about the sequel trilogy. I really like Last Jedi, but if he doesn't, which I assume he doesn't because he's done like 50 billion hours on it. I'm sure like there's some fair criticisms he can throw at it. I'll probably disagree, but let's see. Let's see.
Season 5, Episode 9 of Futurama is called The Sting. In it, we see the Planet Express crew being presented with a difficult mission, one that they surely cannot accomplish.
Bad news, everyone! You're not good enough to go on your next mission. Hooray!
Not good enough!
Why? Says who?
Farnsworth explains that the previous crew died on this mission and that it's simply far too dangerous. This is good news to Bender and Fry, but not to Leela.
We are just as good as any of those other crews you sent to their deaths.
But Leela, we're no good.
I'm scared too, but I'm more scared of disappointing myself.
I'm not scared of that at all.
The mission is to collect honey from a colony of space bees, and at first it seems they are successful despite the difficulty they face.
We got lucky this time, but you should be more careful. I don't want anything to happen to you.
Thanks, but I can look out for myself.
Unfortunately, a captured queen bee wakes
We'll see. Is this going to actually play into the Star Wars critique? Let's see.
up and attacks them.
You're gonna have to go through me!
He's dead.
The episode takes a turn as Fry, arguably the most important character of the series, dies to save Leela. We see a funeral, references to the beginning of the series, his past loves, and strong sentiments shared by each of the characters. Leela, struggling to deal with her grief, decides to eat space honey, falls asleep, and dreams about Fry. He says he can prove he's real by telling her where he hid a gift for her before the mission.
There's just one thing I want you to do.
I don't remember this one. I wonder if I've seen it. I like Futurama, but my viewing habits of it are very spotty.
What?
I want you to wake up.
Wake up? But I'm not...
In her neck,
I think most Futurama, I haven't seen like box sets and stuff, so most stuff I've seen is actually from TV. And I remember the schedule on it changing all the fucking time.
extreme, Fry takes her dancing in a Venusian garden and drinks hot chocolate with her on Hyperion.
So, yeah, you could probably, get 45 minutes out easy if you'd spend first half on Futurama. Let's see, there might be a point to this. I'm still waiting.
Here, take my jacket. You look a little cold.
Thank you.
Leela talks about how this has to be real because she would never take such good care of herself in her own dreams, so there has to be a way to convince everyone else this is real.
All you have to do is wake up.
No, don't say that. This is real.
The story starts to get a bit more complicated because Leela wakes up with Fry's jacket, the one he was buried with. When she presents this to the crew, she sees it's actually her jacket.
Everything's going to be all right, Leela.
What?
Leela begins to lose her mind, and she lets everyone know she's been taking space honey, which explains her behavior. 1 spoonful calms you down, 2 helps you sleep, 3 will take you to a sleep you will never wake up from. And so she takes 2, only to accidentally hit the royal jelly jar, spilling it onto the couch, which brings Fry back to life. You see the DNA from the couch combined with the DNA from when he fell in the jelly. He's back. He's safe. Everything is fine.
Neat.
Leela lets him know that she's glad he's back, he's not dead, and she wasn't responsible for his death, and that everything is fine.
You have to wake up.
Wake up? Oh, no! No!
Leela begins to crack up, seeing the crew sing Don't Worry.
Okay, I don't have much to say right now. I'm sure I will later, but it's like, okay, we're literally recapping Futurama. Okay, I gotcha. I mean, I assume this relates to Star Wars fan base wanting it to come back. I'm not sure. Star Wars died, and then it came back when Disney bought it, and let's see.
Worry, be happy, while gradually all blowing up as a result of bee stings until coming to terms with losing her mind. She ultimately decides to open Fry's coffin to make sure he's still there. Only things get even more difficult for her to understand, and she wakes up again. So she decides her mind is falling apart, but that she's sane enough to know that, and she does indeed choose to eat the honey. 3 spoonfuls, enough to sleep forever, to be with Fry, since he is alive in her dreams, and she doesn't have to deal with him being gone. Only at the last moment, Fry reaches out and tells her she has to fight.
What am I supposed to do?
Fight it!
I can't!
You can! The Leela I know doesn't give up this easily.
Leela is losing her grip on reality. She lost her closest friend because she endangered the crew on a mission that she only wanted to complete to prove she was better. Her ego and vanity caused so much damage, she's contemplating a solution that can let her dream about a world where that isn't the case. And Fry...
I'm so scared, Fry! I don't know what to do!
Just wake up, Leela. Please, just wake up.
As Fry continuously asks Leela to wake up throughout the episode...
Okay, we're 4 minutes in. 4 minutes in. Okay. There better be a point.
We eventually hear him breaking down as he says it behind the sound of hospital beeping.
Yeah, no, I'm assuming it's some sort of, relation to Star Wars, Disney, Star Wars died, and then it came back, and Leela kind of wants it back, but, she's willing to die to get it back, but then she gets back a facsimile. We'll see. We will see.
Bing. Leela wakes up.
Fry, you're alive.
Leela! You're awake! The ambulance took you here right after the bee stung you. The stinger went right through me and you got all the poison.
It turns out Leela's decision to prove she could handle this mission almost killed her. The guilt over the damage she assumed it caused a crew member almost brought her to suicide. In reality, the damage she had done was to herself, and she needed to come to terms with that before realizing that any dream world where everything is perfect and you only made the correct decisions is a dead end. It's a nonsense fairy tale, and fighting to get back to reality is what matters. lives, to get back to those you love and who love you. Everything in the episode is now recontextualized as Leela's point of view on the characters instead of them being themselves. On top of that, you see absurd realities of the world being treated as normal, like the stinger being left in Fry's corpse, or Bender immediately selling Fry's possessions, or the professor chopping someone's head off to analyze it. It's not that these things wouldn't happen, it's that this is what Leela would expect to simply be the case in her world, and as the episode continues, we get more and more abstract representations of her mental state. The episode sheds light on Fry's commitment to Leela, giving us clues that he did indeed put his jacket on her because she was cold, he did get her the gift, and his speaking to her is very likely what managed to bring her back, to pull her from the brink.
Maybe if you heard a familiar voice, it might help keep your mind together. But who knows if it really got through?
It got through, Fry. It got through.
Ultimately, it told us what Leela felt about her own actions, what her role is within Planet Express. It showed us how she felt about Fry. It showed us what she loved about Fry, what he acts as in her life. It told us the effect she believes Fry's death would have on the world, and it told us that she blamed herself for everything.
So maybe Mauler should just do a Futurama fan channel? I don't know. This is fine.
Her hubris, her pride, drove the crew to suffer, leading to a final decision to sleep forever. Only she realizes that the pieces of Fry she had left, that she's trying to bring him back with, that she's willing to die for, are the few pieces he's using to get through to her on her actual deathbed, to bring her back to the living. His voice guides her back to the real world, and he gave up every second to make sure she was okay. Leela spent the episode believing she had killed Fry, only as it turns out, he was the only person preventing her overwhelming pride and guilt from keeping her in this coma forever. It's bloody brilliant. In Season 5, Episode 21 of Buffy the Vampire...
We're doing another one. Well, I guess that'll be another 6 minutes. Of course, Buffy is longer than... Buffy episode is twice the length of a Futurama. Okay, let's see. Wow. Okay. Better have a point.
Vampire Slayer, the weight of the world, Buffy has spent the entire season fleeing a god. She's been protecting her sister from this thing that wants nothing less than to kill her, leave this dimension, and leave the apocalypse in her wake. In the prior episode, at the end of her rope, Buffy loses Dawn. The team is crippled, low on resources. It's a simple matter of time before Glory will kill Dawn and Buffy will lose everything. Instead of her usual reaction to create a new plan, to act fast, to give a speech about this new evil being defeated once and for all, she stops, she sinks, and she is frozen as the...
I mean, what commentary do you guys want when he just does a recap? I'm waiting for him to actually give commentary for me to react to, because he hasn't really said anything. He is just recapping this stuff. It's really, what? Do you want me to freak out because he's recapping stuff? Because it's okay. Okay, so a lot of the EFAP fans like to yell that I'm being bad faith. I'm literally sitting here trying to absorb what he's telling me. He's trying to do a setup. I'm okay, let's do your setup. It is long. But you know what? I'll say he's decent at recaps. I'll go ahead and say that.
Episode closes out.
Buffy, please! Buffy!
We discover
He's a lot better than Gary at the recaps, I'll say that.
In The Weight of the World that Buffy has entered a catatonic state. The pressure of every event during this season has absolutely destroyed her. At least that's the obvious interpretation one would have, considering all...
Wouldn't it actually be kind of funny if it's Star Wars cannot grow and he never actually talks about Star Wars? That would be kind of hilarious. He just recaps stuff he likes.
That's happened.
Losing Dawn after all that Buffy's been through, I think it's pushed her too far into some sort of catatonia.
Willow, the witch in the team, decides to enter Buffy's mind to get her back. Upon entry, Willow sees, as we do, that Buffy is in her childhood home. She's reverted back safely and comfortably to a child.
Hi, Willow.
Hello, Buffy.
Willow opens with explaining how much Buffy is needed, how much she needs to come back. But Buffy is reliving memories, and one that we see is that of...
Okay, so we're dealing with another story where, somebody dies, but, we have a person having trouble with them gone.
Meeting her sister for the first time. We then see a visual of Buffy placing a book on a shelf. Strange, but whatever. Willow then witnesses, through Buffy's memory, her discussion with the first Slayer, the one who told Buffy,
"Death is your gift."
Death is what the life of a Slayer brings. Death surrounds her. And again, we see that visual. Then Willow follows Buffy into Dawn's room and she kills her. Buffy is convinced that death is all she is. This is unsurprising after another significant event in the season.
Death
Is your gift.
Upon that notion, we backslide again to Buffy as a child, visiting Dawn for the first time. She's looping on specific memories, that of meeting Dawn, learning the Slayer legacy, and killing Dawn. Only, there's that one extra visual. Willow then starts to get a bit more desperate.
This never happened. You never killed your sister. None of this is real. You're stuck in some kind of loop.
Buffy seems to be stuck in what could even be called a simple loop. She thinks she killed Dawn, or that her failure led to Dawn's death, meaning she may as well have killed her, and that's all she's good for. But there's that one memory that doesn't quite fit.
This. Right here, it happened. I know it's something small, but it's something.
Buffy explains this is the place she fears the most, the cause of everything. This is when Buffy quit. Just for a second. She was putting a book back for Giles and it hit her. She can't win. Glory will win and Dawn will die. Buffy didn't just know it, she felt it. She wanted it all to end.
When Dawn dies, I would grieve, but it would be over. I imagined what a relief it would be.
Buffy believes that even having those thoughts led to her failure to protect Dawn, and that means it's over. It will always be over.
Snap out of it.
What? All this, it has a name. It's called guilt.
Willow explains it's entirely normal to want a break, to want out of this life for even a second to release the weight of the world, but the fact is, Dawn isn't
10 minutes in.
dead, and for every second Buffy chooses to give up, she will make Dawn's death a reality. She has a choice to make, and she must make it now. Willow reaches her, and Buffy is ready to lead. This episode deftly guides you through a rather layered and complex bit of trauma, with visual metaphors and dialogue being blended out of time.
Like, Giga Chad there. Like, what are you doing? Like, okay, I'm fine with disagreements in the chat, guys, but, like, that shit's not cool. Stop it.
Time and space, while Willow acts as the only anchor to the real world. Buffy begins by hiding in her very own childhood memories, metaphorically removing herself from the weight of all responsibility, at the same time enjoying the moment Dawn entered her life. She's clearly consumed by what the first Slayer told her, that death surrounds the Slayer. It is her legacy, her gift. She is being crushed by the weight of these events. The realization, however, is Dawn's death is what took her over the edge. Only, as Willow highlights, Dawn is not dead. Dawn is alive, and she's waiting to be rescued just like always. The one thing that would ensure her death is to give up. Buffy is realizing that she killed Dawn the second she didn't want to protect her anymore, even for a second. She then believes she's lost, not because she failed a particular battle, but because she doesn't have the drive to win anymore. Buffy gave up. Whether true or not, whether reason...
I mean, I kind of feel like the point of all this is to just kind of numb you, and then when you get to the actual, like, bad takes, well, listen, I've seen enough Mauler to know he does bad takes, but let's see. You know what? I don't want to assume, but this is kind of numbing right now.
Reasonable or not, she thought it, she believed it, and that destroyed her. Buffy killed Dawn because she no longer believed in the fight. And so Willow, being the grounded, forceful spirit in Buffy's life, tells her exactly what she needs to hear. She takes her out of this waking nightmare, and together they build the strength back up to take glory on, once and for all. Buffy spends the episode believing she killed Dawn, and that this is her hell as a result, to wallow in the realization that she's nothing more than death, only to understand through a trusted friend that it's self-fulfilling. The loss is only so for as long as you don't change it. Making a difference is standing up and fighting. It's bloody brilliant. Ahsoka has been airing recently.
Is this going to be another 6 minutes?
The first 4 episodes were a clusterfuck of abysmal writing, with the primary
The first 4 episodes were awesome, but okay. You know what? Sure.
disaster being a complete lack of anything close to effective characterization for the main cast. I struggle to know just who the fuck any of these cardboard cutouts are or why I should care, and
You mean the unique, like, what I like about this series is that they all have, like, unique motivations. Like, the first 4 episodes kind of set up that they all have motivations that brought them together, but then you start seeing how their motivations are not 100% aligned. Like, Sabine would rather bring back Ezra, while Ahsoka would rather stop Thawne. Like, they're working together because those two seem like they align, but then at the end of episodes 4, you see, like, they don't align, and then that's where differences start. I think the series does a good job.
that's from the parts of the show where something happens, a whopping 5%. It doesn't help that the actresses playing this collection of corrugated statues on wheels feel the need to resist emoting as though the survival of Disney's stock prices depend on it, but here
Is that what they do? I have not noticed that one.
we are, the episode where Ahsoka is lost in the world between worlds. A convergence of events looking to intertwine all aspects of the Force, her history, and the relationships both past and present. All of this because the only character I give a fuck about booped her off a cliff. Ahsoka Tano will finally have to face her old master once again. She will complete her training and come to understand there is quite the journey ahead.
You look the same.
You look old.
Well, that happens.
Okay, so if you don't know, Dave Filoni writes dialogue about as well as Rian Johnson writes whodunits.
It's just dumb!
So as
So really, well,
much as this shit clunks harder than adamantium anal beads, we're gonna try and work through to the point this episode has to make.
It means you still have a chance.
Chance.
To live.
So Ahsoka is here, and she's dying? Interesting, since all 3 characters I've been referencing are essentially comatose in their respective stories.
ooh, are we going to get to a point?
Live or die.
We are then treated to witnessing a great battle in the Clone Wars. I was able to figure this out because of the incredible visuals, not at all because of the zombie pisshat dialogue.
This is the Clone Wars!
Anakin tells Ahsoka
Okay, so, like, it's easy to make lines of dialogue look bad when you just clip them out of context like that. And even so, like, a young Ahsoka saying this is the Clone Wars. Like, I'm assuming, like, it's the old her being put in the young body and then going, oh my god, it's the Clone Wars. Seems fine?
that as a lead
I mean, it is true. Like, this is a younger actress, and younger actresses are, generally speaking, not as good. But, like, that's just a fact of, like, making stuff. Kid actors are typically not as good. There are some that are really good. That's just kind of standard, man. You get the best one you can.
leader, she will have to make decisions that bring about people's deaths, and that to win the war, you have to be a soldier.
Is that all I'll have to teach my own Padawan one day?
So, Ahsoka is sad that death is a common part of the Jedi, or
Lippy, it doesn't need to exist as a line because people have eyes. It's not bad to set up, though. I mean, just because you have a whole bunch of clone troopers running around, I mean, it's not bad to establish that, like, she's flashing back to an earlier time, I assume.
or soldier or warrior experience. Doesn't it suck that the fate of her Padawan is violence and death? Perhaps it's worth throwing in the towel instead. Strange that she would have this perspective when this is adult Ahsoka reliving child Ahsoka's memory, meaning she is a person who has completed many campaigns being motivated to save people's lives. She's not actually young nor inexperienced, because that is the point of the world between worlds, right? Soldiers dying and killing enemies in favor of preventing mass death is a pretty straightforward concept that I figure she understood and valued. Teaching a Padawan to engage in a life like that could be considered quite the positive thing. They may prevent mass suffering, something I figure she knew.
I'm teaching you how to lead, how to survive. To do that, you're going to have to fight.
What if I want to stop fighting?
Then you'll die.
If you don't fight, you die. Seemingly a very weak version of similar stories, considering how little there is to prompt this.
I guess we'd I haven't seen, like, this is episode 5, 6? I haven't seen it yet, but why does it need compared to the other ones? I'm a bit confused. I guess it would be episode 5. So, like, she's dead, the world between worlds, and she's flashing back. It's also worth noting, like, the other examples you brought up are other people reaching out to them, whereas this is just her.
Had no clue Ahsoka was giving up. Where was any of this in the previous episodes, and why was this prompted by Baylan talking about death and destruction? Those lines are repeated in the previously on.
Your legacy, like your master's, was one of death and destruction.
She apparently took that criticism so seriously she's now contemplating suicide in the form of simply giving up. I doubt anything we've heard from Anakin so far is new to her, nor would it be anything that would encourage her to live or die in this scenario. But then
Okay. Like I said, I haven't seen this episode yet. I kind of wish, maybe I should have researched this a little bit more. I usually like to go into the videos cold for live, but, again, I don't know the context, but, like, it's possible, I guess.
I have no idea why she would want to die.
It was my fault. They were following my orders. I got them killed.
This is war, Ahsoka. As Jedi, it's our job to lead.
Ahsoka is apparently having a crisis in which she thinks all she seems to do is add to a path of destruction and death, likely fueled by her tutelage from Anakin, being Darth Vader. Perhaps that is...
So is this an Ahsoka video? I'm just kind of assuming this is an Ahsoka video at this point.
Is her future too, so why not give up? Something we've had no priors for in her own show whatsoever. And let's be honest, Ahsoka should know every detail about Anakin's much more recent actions.
I mean, possibly, but maybe this is something she came to after she died? It doesn't seem like that huge of a jump to me, since she had just died.
From Luke. She did meet him, and she was obviously very invested in her former master's impact on ending the war. Yeah, remember this? Anyone? That was a wasted fucking scene. Ahsoka should know about Anakin's sacrifice, his values beyond that of the twisted machine, and she knew him beforehand. She's currently trying to save the galaxy, and by extension her Padawan and close friend, only she lost a fight to this literal who. She knows this guy about as well as the audience does. Still the best character though. I have no clue why now.
Why is he the best character? Well, I'm not going to get to the reason I would draw from if it were nerdrotic, but I do think it's interesting he's calling him the best character. Listen, Baylan's not a bad character at all. Like Ahsoka, Sabine, Hera, these are really good characters as well. I think it's strange to just be like, he's the only good one. Why? I think there's lots of interesting characters in this series.
Now of all times would have her reaching an existential crisis regarding her place in the world and her legacy as a destructive force when she's pretty much been a paragon in everything we've seen of her. She's more motivated now than ever to do the right thing. She is on the cusp of preventing the reignition of the Empire, and she's concerned about her actions leading to death. Her inaction will lead to way more death, as well as the
I mean, if his argument is that because he's the best actor, I mean, Rosario Dawson is a really good actress as well, so it seems strange.
danger of herself and her close friends. You can't just drop this arc on her out of nothing, and you certainly can't do it with about 4 sentences. But this is where...
Well, I mean, it sounds like it's a character development episode. Which, wouldn't that be good? Like I said, I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know, but like, it seems like he's complaining because there's character development in this episode, and like, what's the problem with that? Like, what, do you need like the character development episode to introduce like 5 episodes before we get to the actual episode? I'm really confused.
It gets complicated. Nobody is agreeing on what the fuck Anakin's lesson even is, especially between those who love the episode. I've read their interpretations. It's the equivalent of a blender of Star Wars flavored cope. Don't die, live is the takeaway, but many are digging a hell of a lot deeper because Filoni has left this incredibly confusing and vague. People speculate that Ahsoka feels responsible for the deaths Anakin caused as she did not prevent his fall, meaning it's
That could be interesting.
It's time she gives up? If she had such enormous concerns about these sorts of events and decisions, then why has she been such an active participant in this form of activity without hesitation for so long? Where has this attitude been? Not only are we now heavily writing for the writer to squeeze meaning into this anorexic script, it has nothing to do with what.
Well, Mauler, I'm assuming you didn't like the episode, but there are people who did like the episode. And did you know that their reads of that episode, I mean, we could look into see like where stuff lines up with the text, but odds are their read of the episode is just as valid as yours.
Why she wouldn't want to live, and it doesn't address what she would know about Anakin. Why in the fucking world would this be dealt with now as opposed to when she found out about Vader?
Because now's when she died. Listen, I didn't even see the episode. I could tell you that just right now.
Why wouldn't you wait to prompt this when she goes through something very similar? Leela believed she got a crew member killed. Buffy believed she failed her duty and killed her sister. That's why their journeys were prompted. Ahsoka believes what? That people get hurt in wars where she gives orders? That people will eventually get hurt if she doesn't give up? That she's responsible for the people Anakin killed? That she...
Well, I'm leaning towards that she feels responsible for what happened to Anakin, but I haven't seen the episode.
He may become as destructive as Vader, that Sabine is simply fated to become as destructive and death-ridden as everyone else in this line of training. And what, this was prompted by falling off a cliff? Why are you
I'm pretty sure she was supposed to die. What, like, you're acting like, oh, she just fell off a cliff. She knocked off, like, you do understand when you fall off a cliff, that's usually fatal, right? Like, that's bad. You usually get fucked up by that.
Showing me that she feels bad for the clones that died under her command, as though that justifies her belief that she brings death everywhere she goes and thus should die herself. Are we not talking...
Well, I'm assuming because she's been around a lot of death that she just doesn't want to be around it anymore as well?
About the lives saved, the places liberated, or the goods served? This was no mistake made based on her own flaws as a character. Does she have no understanding of the context of death? As far as I can tell, we're using clones because there's actually no other reference to force Ahsoka to have this arc. Nobody who died due to her own vices, flaws, or mistakes. And so this is nothing. There's nothing here for Ahsoka as a character to actually have to grapple with. She would never believe...
I mean, he's clearly panning this episode, but kind of based on his description, this sounds like an interesting character study episode to me. It sounds like I'm kind of excited to watch it now.
If she is some destructive force, or that she may become one if she continues to fight when she's the only one right now who can make the difference and help. I mean, fuck, she's for...
But she also might be tired. She might be tired. She might be exhausted. She is, well, I guess she's not technically a human being, but let's go ahead and use the generalization and say she's a human being. Sometimes, even when human beings need to do something, they're tired, and they're exhausted, and they're wore out, and they just can't.
Filoni's little Star Wars god. She is the bestest and brightest, most wonderful and good character.
And he is obviously giving her some character development and showing her at a weaker point. Like, I feel like a lot of the people you hang out with complain whenever women are just like perfect. And now seems to be presenting a story where she's not perfect. And now you're complaining that she's not perfect. I mean, that's a weird take, man.
Nobody is convinced that she was going to take her own life because she brings death to the world. That's fucking retarded. Especially when death is threatening the world and the people she loves. So why the fuck of all times would she be giving up now? Thrawn is on her...
Because she's burnt out. Because she's tired. Because she's not a machine.
Her doorstep. Everyone she loves needs her, and she has no significant reason to think she would lose. There you go. That's why we're here. To see Anakin Skywalker crossing over into Vader, igniting a red lightsaber, looking evil. 'Cause that shit is awesome. That shit is Star Wars.
Live.
Well, it sounds like fan service, but this actually seems like that would play into the story, because if she's blaming herself for the stuff Anakin did, then yeah, I could see this being a part of that.
Or die. Incorrect.
Seriously, just have him say nothing at this point. It would be better. Jesus, what hell cringe is dribbling onto my screen?
That looked kind of cool to me. I don't know why you're being picky. Stuff's allowed to look cool just to look cool. You know that, right? Like, would you rather things don't look cool? Like, there is a visual art to movies. You understand that, right? It just... Well, this isn't even movies. Media. They're just being creative with the media. It looks cool to me.
Get out of this fucking universe, you Vader-obsessed wannabe shitwits. It's the breathing, the red lightsaber, the fucking outfit, every goddamn time. You cannot tell a fucking story that doesn't revolve around the same 5 people in this piss stain of a universe.
Well, listen, just because it's involving Vader... It's still about Ahsoka. I mean, I guess I haven't seen that episode, but even what you described sounds like it's about Ahsoka. So I assume that's not one of the 5 people, since this is the first live-action series I've seen of her. Like, what would be the 5 people? Would Mando would have to be one of them, because he's got his own series. So, what? Mando, Luke, Rey, Anakin? I mean, you could make the argument that, like, Star Wars, like, I do feel Star Wars in a lot of ways was getting too dependent on the Skywalkers, and I do feel with the newer series they're breaking away from that. Fucking love Andor, and so far Ahsoka's good. But, yeah, they are breaking away from that, I feel. Just because Ahsoka does have a connection to Anakin Skywalker doesn't mean they aren't working towards breaking away from that, because this is an Ahsoka series.
And why, on top of everything, must I watch these icons of Star Wars deliver the fucking dialogue equivalent of rotting clown semen?
Trying to die.
Fuck me.
Well, I mean, they're not going to have as good scriptwriters as someone who can come up with rotting clown semen. So, yeah.
I guess they brought in Hayden Christensen not just for the member berries, but because they needed an expert in delivering emaciated, thudding, ass cream dialogue.
Liar!
I choose to live.
Okay, so like she chooses to live, meaning that Ahsoka was...
It means she's choosing to move on, to continue the fight. You know, you were just criticizing her because she was giving up. And now, like, the actual, seems like the point of the episode was that at the end she didn't give up. So, what's your complaint?
Considering choosing to die because her path is that of death and destruction, and Vader because making Anakin fight her. She's now choosing to live. She's going to fight to live where others failed, where her master went to the dark side or something. I don't know.
There's hope for you yet.
Then, through some bullshit mechanics I'm not even going to bother talking about, she's fished out of drowning and jumps into a whale and travels to Thrawn. This episode was simultaneously packed with worthless bullshit and crushed at the moments of anything meaningful trying to claw its way onto the screen. The time-wasting...
I mean... So far, you've just described what sounds like a pretty good character episode. I haven't even seen it to judge, but it seems like a solid character episode where she kind of gets her will to move forward renewed. I mean, you've said a lot of this stuff in a condescending voice, but you haven't really brought up any real complaints except condescending voice and fan service bad. Which, I mean, I don't even subscribe to fan service bad. Fan service can be bad if it's overdone and over the top and doesn't serve a point in the story. But, like, fan service can be good, too. So, like, fan service by itself is kind of just nebulous.
signature of Dave Filoni is alive and well. He takes incredible resources and lets them spill across the floor with no more purpose in delivery than a drunken octopus tossing darts at a board of emotional illusion. All in favor of telling a completely hollow piece of piss story that came out of nowhere just to go nowhere for the...
Again, you described a character story. Why is that a hollow piece of piss story? I'm basing this entirely from what you've described it, and what you've described sounds decent.
Explicit seconds of fan service and distraction from just how little substance remains in this dilapidated prolapsing franchise that people have the balls to call genius in execution.
People have the balls? Do people call it genius? Let's see where you're going, because I feel like that's kind of a straw man. I don't think most people are calling Star Wars genius.
Hey, Filoni, you utter genius.
One of the best shots in
Oh, well, you found one guy. Okay.
Star Wars history. Argue with a wall. Hashtag Ahsoka. Hashtag Anakin. What if I want to stop fighting? Then you'll die. The Vader silhouette. I'm Sir Unwell. Hashtag Ahsoka Tano. Hashtag Tano Tuesday. Hashtag Anakin Skywalker. If Dave Filoni could be nominated for any of his shots, it's this one. Hashtag Ahsoka. Hashtag Ahsoka spoilers. Someone pointed out how Anakin is surrounded by people and friends, and instead Vader is all alone.
What the fuck?
I mean, that was actually a decent observation, pointing out how, in one shot it's Anakin and he has friends, and in another shot it is Vader all alone. It's actually a decent observation. It's pointing out that, like, he essentially burned all his bridges when he became Vader. Mauler, are you aware people are allowed to like stuff even if you don't? Like, you do understand, like, you say your opinion is objective. That's like your whole, like, gimmick, but you do understand it's not, right? You're not so, like, brain broken. Do you actually think your points are objective when it comes to this stuff, right? All this stuff is subjective. How we relate to art, how art hits us emotionally, that is subjective.
And instead Vader is all alone.
What the fuck did you notice about the shots before noticing that?
I can't stop thinking about this scene. Hashtag Anakin. Hashtag Anakin Skywalker. Hashtag Darth Vader. Hashtag Ahsoka. Hashtag Ahsoka Tano. Hashtag Tano Tuesday. Hashtag Star Wars. Hashtag Ahsoka. Hashtag Ahsoka spoilers. That flicker between Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader is one of the smooth.
Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and say this. You don't really need to include the hashtags, unless that's part of your point for some reason.
Cleanest, and sickest things Star Wars has ever done. Fire.
Have you seen editing before? Have you seen anything before?
Nothing will never not make this terrible.
Doesn't mean it's not cool? Like, yeah. So, just because it's not a particularly tough edit doesn't mean it's not cool. You understand that, right? Sometimes the coolest stuff will be simple.
This is Darth Vader. Hashtag Star Wars. Hashtag Darth Vader. Hashtag Anakin. Hashtag Ahsoka. This is the Darth Vader Obi-Wan denied Emperor Palpatine. Hashtag Anakin. Hashtag Anakin Skywalker. Hashtag Darth Vader. Hashtag Ahsoka. Hashtag Ahsoka Tano. Hashtag Tano Tuesday. Hashtag Star Wars. Whoever thought to merge Anakin's regular voice with Vader's cyborg voice when saying, "You lack conviction," deserves a raise. This was spine-tingling. Hashtag Star Wars. Hashtag AHSOKA. This is probably the best shot I have ever seen in Star Wars.
What is so fucking good about it? Is it that he's a good man and that he's Anakin? But oh no, he's a bad man too, and there's Vader. Oh, Ahsoka sees him as both Anakin the master and the good man, but oh no, she sees him as Vader the bad man.
Dave FIL.
Okay, so, like, your argument is that people are freaking out over that shot. And, you know, I'll go ahead and give you a little bit of points, because while I think that shot's cool looking, I wouldn't call it the coolest thing ever in Star Wars or anything. But I won't give you too many points, because I also think, without even watching the episode, just seeing the clips you show here, I think it looks pretty cool.
LONI needs to be kept on by Disney for life. Hashtag Ahsoka. Siege of Mandalorei. Did not know you had this in you, Dave Filoni. Hashtag Ahsoka. Dave Filoni writing the script for episode 5 of Hashtag Ahsoka. Hashtag Ahsoka.
So, I'm noticing there's a tinniness to this AI voice he's using. Which is like, what, did you record it with like 64 bits per second? Like, why is it so tinny?
Tano. Clearly Favreau and Filoni know how to include legacy characters in ways that actually serve the story and drive the plot forward. Folded hands, I trust them. To label these as fan service is to miss the point of their role entirely. Hashtag Ahsoka. Hashtag Anakin Skywalker. Hashtag The Mandalorian. Hashtag Luke Skywalker. Wait a minute, we sure we don't want Dave Filoni to give you a...
Yes, I feel like I've seen that name before. Like he's just going over people who like the show, and I assume that means these tweets are bad. Are these tweets that he wants people to ratio? Like, what is the point here? Like, again, Mauler, people are allowed to disagree with you. You understand that, right?
As a Clone Wars movie. Loudly crying. Hashtag Ahsoka. Anakin and Ahsoka with Sith eyes. Fire 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 Dave FILONI cook. Okay, so it's agreed that episode 5 of Ahsoka is the best thing Disney has done with Star Wars, period, right? Like this was peak Star Wars.
Star Wars is fucked. If you skip this episode, Ahsoka simply needed to chase the bad guys inside a whale, which is fucking
That episode was character development. Like, again, I didn't see it. But I'm telling just from the description you gave, that was a character development episode. It was a character moment. It was her renewing her will to go forward. It was her getting burnt out and just renewing her will. It sounds fucking cool to me.
retarded in and of itself. Her existential crisis came from nothing and is resolved with ease in minutes. The idea that this is one of her most important character episodes and all of the context to understand it is apparently from countless seasons of other TV shows.
Okay, just because other TV shows hit the same emotional points or cover similar ground, I mean, there's a fuck ton of TV shows, of course they will, doesn't mean that this one isn't done well. You do understand, there's only so many stories in the world, and when you're doing a story, what matters is how you do it. Like, the execution is the most important thing in a story, not just the story. You do understand that, right? Like, Tommy Wiseau could direct Citizen Kane, and you'd end up with a completely different fucking movie. It might be entertaining, but won't be nearly the work of art that it was. And it would be the exact same story. Exactly the same. Just saying.
That's absolutely embarrassing. Regardless, Ahsoka is and will be no different from before to after this event in how Rosario Dawson portrays her, because she has been portraying her as a dissatisfied brick in key emotional moments of this series already.
Now!
Except now...
Well, like I said, I haven't seen this, so I don't know the execution. All I know is that he hasn't really brought up any points against it. Like, his points against it seem to be, like, fan service, which, it's Star Wars. They're bringing back Anakin. Of course, there'll be some fan service. Not even that much, and what he's shown looks cool. Bad lines, which, again, I haven't really seen much evidence of. And then, like, essentially calling it filler, which, I mean, I feel like the point is to just give Ahsoka, like, motivation to move forward. Again, I haven't seen it. Maybe I'll watch it and think it sucks. But just based on what he's described, he hasn't really levied, is that it? Levied. He hasn't really levied a case against it.
Oh, she's wearing white clothing because that's the only fucking thing they know how to do. This is peak Star Wars. Peak Star Wars is Dave Filoni discovering CGI smoke, a visual that can barely be accredited to him before Jon Favreau, before Gareth Edwards, before, well, ain't it?
Yes, because emerging from smoke looks cool. It's just that simple.
Fucking depressing to know just how stale these ideas are. Anakin and the world between worlds annihilates what we understand to be his relationship with Luke and raises more questions than the fucking hyperspace kamikaze. Is this Anakin? Is this fragments of his life through time brought together to reach out to Ahsoka? Is this a...
Okay, so again, I haven't seen the episode. I don't really know how this thing works. But just based on what you've described, I'm assuming it's Ahsoka, like the memory of Anakin that Ahsoka has. That's what my assumption would be. And I'm just some dude who hasn't seen it.
Ahsoka's vision of him? Is this a photocopy of him from a particular era? Is this a Force ghost? Is this a combination of the lot?
Did he say she doesn't have motivation? Yeah, her motivation is definitely to stop Thrawn. That is clearly established in the show. Because, like I said, Sabine wants to bring Ezra back, and Ahsoka wants to stop Thrawn. And they're working together because those things kind of align, but then we see where they separate in the end of the 4th episode. Because Sabine's actually willing to work with the bad guys a bit if it means bringing Ezra back, whereas Ahsoka isn't. Ahsoka would much rather stop Thrawn.
lot. You understand that the meaning of everything coming from his end changes dramatically depending on the answer. Luke Skywalker should be incredibly relevant to this whole series, but for some reason we're pretending like this isn't a time where he would be most active in the universe.
What, do you want Luke here? Like you were just complaining about fan service and how it revolves around only so many characters, and now we're doing a story based around someone who isn't Luke, and now you're saying Luke should be a major character. I kind of feel like you should be picking a lane on that one.
He would be hell-bent on stopping any Empire loyalists from resurrecting the regime and the war. He's not a worthless, titty-sucking hobo yet. There are countless coming events that Anakin needs.
It's also possible he's somewhere where he just can't get to them in time. I mean, I don't know exactly where Luke is, but let's just assume he can't be everywhere at once.
To tell Ahsoka about. There are countless pieces of information that he could have given her. Hera should be fucking fired for getting 2 men killed while dragging a child into an active war zone on an unsanctioned, batshit crazy mission. Sabine.
Yeah, well, batshit crazy mission. They found out that there's a ship. They went to go stop it. And they didn't know the ship would just fly around them and fuck shit up. Like, weren't you also just talking about how people die in, like, wars and battles, and, like, she got into a battle and people died? I feel like you should be picking a lane.
Should be stripped of her armor and lightsaber before she facilitates the victory for the Empire once again in future by being a bratty fucking idiot. Also, she should have died like 17 times by now. And you know what?
I mean, I'll be blunt. I haven't seen this episode of Ahsoka yet either. And you know what? He's making it sound good. I kind of want to see a character study of Ahsoka. Kind of see her reflect on what happened to Anakin and how she feels about it. I think that's an interesting story to explore. Now, do they do it? Well, I don't know. I haven't seen it, but it sounds interesting to me.
The worst of it is the plot. The show is almost entirely plot. Plot, fucking plot. What little character there is,
Okay, Mauler. You just spent this whole thing, well, not the whole thing, a lot of it complaining about episode 5, I assume, being a character episode. A character development episode. And now you're going to ignore that and say, all this is plot. Again, like, it really just feels like you're going back and forth just looking at things to hate on this series. This is not a great look at it.
Round 2, I'm a general, fuck off. I'm confused, but I like Ezra, fuck off. And finally, I crossed my arms like in the cartoon, now drool for me. For fuck's sake. This video explores.
You know, it's possible to, like, be like, hey, I really dislike, although, honestly, you haven't even made any cases for disliking it. All it is I don't like this, essentially. It's like, okay. Not a whole lot of points to bring up. But, like, it is possible for people to like something even if you dislike it. That is a possibility. And I don't know. I feel like maybe you need to learn to cope with that. Because this episode feels like a cope. That, like, people like this episode of Ahsoka and you didn't. So now you just need to cope. Like, you're doing this cope video where you're like, oh, God, how dare people like it? These people suck if they like it. It's like, no. They're just not you.
Explored 3 episodes of television. Episodes where our main character is locked in an otherworldly state thinking about how her legacy is death. That she should simply give up, only to realize she is wrong, escaping that loop and fighting hard to get back to the world of the living. 2 episodes were from 2 of my favorite television shows of all time. Shows featuring characters that are essentially trapped within their own thoughts, feelings, memories, and flaws. They spend the runtime discovering more about their own lives, motivations, values, and interpersonal dynamics than the total character development on display in all seasons of all Star Wars TV shows put together. Outside of the good one, of course. The characters are treated with great respect, and they each have realizations.
The good one. As I recall, lots of people liked Mando before it was popular to hate on it. Like, As I recall, season 1 and 2 of Mando got a lot of love, and then people decided it was popular to hate on Star Wars, so they started hating on season 3. By the way, I enjoyed season 3 a fair bit. Like, I'd say it's probably my least favorite of the 3 seasons, but it's still solid. And Ahsoka's been good so far. What I've seen of Ahsoka is really good, and Andor was fantastic.
All ranging from intense horror, motivated senses of purpose and responsibility.
Oh, dude, that's a great point. Pop Counterculture's bringing up a Terrence Malick movie. Like, if you guys are not familiar with a Terrence Malick movie, it's like almost a pure visual experience. There's like minimalist dialogue. There's some good ones too, but they're like movies that you experience. You don't like they're so. It's tough to describe. It's worth checking out, though. But, like, dude, like, if Mauler tried to break down that, like, I think it would bust his brain.
All the way over to love and relief that will go on to change everything they understand about the world and themselves, prompted by incredibly dramatic events that will stick with them forever, regarding insecurities and flaws they've been dealing with since the beginning. They are absolute bangers.
I mean, he is comparing it to Buffy and Futurama, but it would be hilarious. Like, let's talk about the new world.
Of character exploration and share a very surprising amount in terms of structure and execution, despite the fact that we have here a supernatural horror.
No, they that's a good point, actual Fandom. They go after writing a lot, and it's kind of a failure, because writing is only one aspect of the filmmaking process. It is an important aspect, I'll give you that, but like execution is more important, in my opinion. Very much more important.
A drama and an animated comedy, and these are far from the only examples of writers who belt out absolute beasts of storytelling with this format. It's the impressive power of that craft. It's why we remember them. Ahsoka, much like mostly anything Disney produces these days, is a fucking blight on storytelling. It's dragging down every last aspect while using the very few easy elements it's familiar with to blind its audience as much as possible.
Okay, like, just showing Anakin isn't enough. Can you, like, give us a specific example? Just, like, I feel like you're doing the wrap-up right now, and you haven't really made a case. Because the one episode of Ahsoka you really railed on, you actually made it sound kind of fucking cool. I'm just saying.
Manipulate using nostalgia, and to dissuade anyone from noticing the hollow, desolate, creative, bleached bones of the storytelling beneath. It's pretending to be a story. It's incredible how much...
I don't know what pretending to be a story even means. I feel like that's just another insult you're throwing out. Which is an easy insult because it doesn't have to be specific towards anything. It's just a real general insult throwing out there. Doesn't mean anything.
Much those who love the episode disagree as to what it's about, adding all kinds of content that absolutely wasn't there beyond an evil eye glance or glitchy fucking Vader visual. The episode plays at the idea of a woman who believes her legacy is death, with no backing beyond her mentor having become Darth Vader.
That seems decent? Like, that seems like a logical backdrop for that?
Than that, there's nothing in the writing or the performances in the entire season leading up to it. A conflict that lacks foundation when she should know about Vader's lasting legacy. A conflict that lacks focus because, unlike Buffy, she did not reach a moment of almost wanting a loved one to die to release her from responsibility. A conflict that cannot be less relevant when the universe hangs in the balance of Ahsoka being able to stop Thrawn. We play at the idea of her being on the cusp of death, of contemplating suicide because of her guilt and the desire to stop fighting in a world where she could cause so much destruction within. A conflict that lacks focus because, unlike Leela, nobody has been killed thanks to her flaws. Only soldiers dying in a war to defend the world from tyranny. Something that requires...
So someone else has to die for this story to work for you? That seems like a weird takeaway. Like, can it just be like she got, like, beaten up in this fight and pretty much dies, and she is just like reliving her past and all the destruction she has caused, and partially blaming herself for what happened to Anakin and looking at the destruction he has caused and partially blaming herself for that, and just getting exhausted and worn out and not wanting to move forward from that. I feel there's a fair bit to unpack there, and I feel it's not unnatural to unpack it with her. I feel that's an intuitive story choice.
It's far more contemplation and understanding for an audience than Rosario Dawson crossing her arms. But no, it's all about actually how her lineage stretches through all of the Jedi and that her legacy is to train the next one in Sabine. That's daunting considering the death and destruction that comes from training anyone this way, which is insane considering the dramatic and immense amount of good that Ahsoka has done as a result of her training that isn't even brought up. But no, it's about how Ahsoka wants to be close with Sabine and train her, only she fears a betrayal or a turn or abandonment, even though her switch to train Sabine happened in a couple of seconds, with all the facial...
Well, okay, so, real quick, what I remember is that Sabine kind of was iffy on even wanting to get trained, and she's kind of spotty on the training, too. The droid Huang? God, I'm fucking up his name. David Tennant droid. Even brought up how she is like the worst student he's ever seen. And I kind of love how blunt that droid is. Because like he was kind of saying that because I'm sure he thinks it's true, but also like that's gonna be a good motivation for her to go better. Like, yeah, that's part of it. Like she has to want to train for it to even be effective.
Expression of a fucking mollusk. But no, it's about how she doesn't like to take risks. She'd rather destroy the star map and condemn Sabine to a life of wondering what if than take the chance at something better.
Because Sabine is willing to risk Thrawn to coming back if it means bring back Ezra. Ahsoka is not willing to risk Thrawn coming back by any cost. They have different motivations. They are different characters with different motivations that largely align until they suddenly didn't. This is clearly seen in the show. Clearly.
What? She wanted to destroy it to prevent the bad guys from reaching Thrawn. If she wanted to destroy it in general, she would have done it in episode 1. The key to understanding the cope of the fans with this one is right here.
This isn't explicit. I know. But I think it's implied.
The episode does have some explicit bits, the summary of which would be, people die when I involve myself and I could fall in the same way my master did, I should stop fighting. Yeah, but you gotta fight or you die. Well then I choose to live and also not be a bad man like you were. And this was brought on by utterly invented horseshit. Interpretation 723 is that Ahsoka sees her life as that of within the...
Okay, dude, like... the story didn't work for you. I get it. Cool.
The shadow of Anakin Skywalker, and thus Darth Vader. Will she make his mistakes, and is it because of her lack of action that he fell? Anakin wants to teach her that she can move well beyond him and live her best life anew. Baptized in fire, free of concern that she would ever make his mistakes, blah, blah, blah. It's like people ignored everything that set this up, and then they hyper-embellish what this actually was to compensate for their desire to love Star Wars.
He Vadered! Oh, wow. I'm stressing.
To be in that
Yeah, how dare they like something? What jerks, huh? Yeah. Fuck them. Is that your argument right now?
Position with the wonderful franchise at all costs.
Good job, Dave.
Dave Filoni, yeah!
Wow, well done, Dave. Thank you, Dave.
Dave Filoni. You have my soul.
Dave Filoni. I am not worthy.
Filoni should be thankful so many people are writing in all of the meat and weight of these scenes for him when there's little to no evidence of a deft hand in expression packaged with dialogue that would give the...
Yeah, no, listen, Mauler is welcome to his opinion that this is the worst episode ever. And he's even welcome to his opinion that, if you like this episode, you are somehow, like, shitty or something. You're welcome to those opinions, dude. Just like I'm welcome to think those opinions are trash.
Asylum a run for their money. The reality is obvious. Ahsoka is not Buffy. She hasn't spent more than 5 years having everyone die around her knowing...
So wait, they can only do this episode if they do 5 seasons first? That's a weird take. Like, they don't even do as many TV episodes or seasons as they used to anymore. Buffy was a 7-season show with, 22 episodes per season? Like, Buffy came out at a different time. A different fucking time. Ahsoka, this is the first season, but she is already an established character. We saw her in the Clone Wars. Well, other people did. I haven't really seen the Clone Wars. I know she's a character that existed. I did see the pilot movie. But, she's got the Clone Wars behind her. We saw her in Mandalorian. It's a character, I believe she was in Rebels as well. This is a character that, while we haven't, had her own series for that long, she's an established character in lore. I don't feel this is jumping the gun remotely.
Her predecessors all die young and in combat, knowing that anyone she loves is doomed when spending any time anywhere near her, and to have the most precious thing in her life taken away despite every last effort to prevent it, prompting despair. Ahsoka is not Leela, a woman who made poor decisions in favor of her own pride that almost killed her crewmate, leading to contemplating suicide in order to dull the pain. Leela believed a permanent sleep would have her
blames herself for the death for Ahsoka does blame her. The implication I get is Ahsoka does blame herself for what happened to Anakin. That's the implication I'm getting.
Try once again after killing him, only to realize that waking up will take her right to him. But
I also it's hey, this story isn't exactly like Buffy or Futurama, therefore bad. That's not a great take. Don't you want it to be different? I think it should be different.
Buffy believed she killed Dawn due to her actions, only to be brought out by knowing her inaction will create that outcome. Anakin simply said this dumb shit.
It means you still have a chance to live. Live or die. And you'll die trying to die. There's hope for you yet.
Well, I assumed the setup for the episode is that she died, and now she has to decide whether or not she wants to move on or not. It seems reasonable to set up the stakes of the episode. Just saying.
This is nothing. Ahsoka is a teenage storyteller's love of Star Wars as an IP come to vague life.
Is she younger?
It's young Ahsoka.
That's young Ahsoka.
Clones! Walking around in a clip show.
If you were just bashing it, that's one thing. You're not technically insulting them, but pretty much you play those clips and you're implying that somehow these opinions are less valid for some reason. People are allowed to like things you don't, man. Just deal with it, man. It really comes off as a cope, I'm just saying.
Show of everything we love to recognize.
This is the coolest thing I've ever witnessed in Star Wars.
Some of the best Star Wars content, period.
Are we gonna get Rex?
It's Rex. A simple trick of the light, a stencil of a shadow of a stain of storytelling, nothing more. She is a Rubik's Cube with every color on every side, matching the shade of her oh so fucking special lightsabers. Turn and twist your interpretation to your heart's content, and I'm sure you'll feel you've hit on something every time you reach a conclusion.
I'm here to finish your training.
Because you'd rather avoid admitting you enjoy this for the shallow and meaningless fucking key jangling it clearly is.
Again, Mauler, people are allowed to like things that you don't like. Again, and this is just coming off as a cope, man. This is just coming off as how dare you people like this. Don't you know I dislike it and I'm like some sort of god of criticism or some shit? I don't know what you're trying to pose yourself as in this, but it just comes off kind of a weak, honestly. It's a little sad. It's like people like things you don't. You're allowed to dislike them, but it just comes off you're really struggling. Just like how dare they? How dare they? Move on, man. Grow up. Mauler cannot grow up. That's the title of this video.
Oh, wait a minute! Rex, there he is!
#Ahsoka, #Ahsoka spoilers. Seeing Rex live action had me bawling. Wish we could have gotten to see Temuera's face in it.
that seems like logical fan service to put in there. As someone who's not super familiar with Clone Wars, I am familiar with one of the clones being named Rex.
This episode, but I will take what I can get. Loudly crying yellow heart.
It had the voice and everything. It was wonderful.
Red. That's red.
We should all demand something better. The journey in this episode totaled at about 3 minutes, cutting out the immense fucking filler. Beyond that, we had about 5 lines in total that are relevant to what kind of arc Ahsoka is supposed to be experiencing. Somehow, all of that is remembered as a great character study the second Filoni rolls out Vader. Darth fucking Vader. Because let's be honest, this cracked cacophony
It gets me interested to watch this, but it really seems like what happened was, like, the obvious overall fan reaction was that this was a really good episode. Lots of people liked it, and he feels need to make a video explaining why no, it's actually bad, and you're a less than person somehow if you like it, which it's just weird. It's weird to feel the need to do that. You know that, right? That's not normal. Like, normal people don't do that.
of surface-level character exploration was entirely forced upon Ahsoka in order to throw Anakin at the audience.
OMG, I'm not crying loudly crying heart. Hashtag Ahsoka, hashtag Anakin Skywalker. I am not okay. This is everything. They did it. They really did it. Face holding back tears. Hashtag Ahsoka, hashtag Anakin Skywalker. Hashtag Ahsoka spoilers. This is everything loudly crying. I see Hayden watched the Clone Wars very carefully and I love him for that. Even the body language is the same. The way he looks, it's unbelievable. Just like 2005, just like in Rots. Anakin's face when he's proud of us.
Revenge of the Sith, just like Rots.
Ahsoka. Hashtag hashtag the Clone Wars. Hashtag Anakin.
You know, Mauler, even if the AI voice is reading through everything, you don't have to have it go through all the hashtags. You can, you are putting this through an editor. You can cut that. It's a bit much.
Hashtag Anakin Skywalker. Mentally I'm still here. Hello. Hashtag Ahsoka spoilers. Dash. He did the thing. Hashtag Anakin. The true Darth Vader. Hashtag Star Wars. Vader transitioning to Anakin was pure cinema one. Hashtag Ahsoka. Hashtag Anakin Skywalker. The GOAT. Hashtag Anakin Skywalker. Hashtag Ahsoka. Years ago, if you told me that one day we'd see Hayden Christensen return to play Darth Vader, but without his suit, wielding a red lightsaber and fighting his
So most of this, I feel, is a recap of other shows, and him just doing an AI voice going over tweets of people who like this, because how dare they? And of course, we got some clips of people liking it, because again, how dare they? It really comes off as elitist, man.
Apprentice from the animated series. I'd call you crazy. Hashtag Star Wars. Then and now hashtag the Clone Wars. Hashtag Ahsoka. Hashtag Anakin. OML like live action fucking Clone Wars. ISCREAMEDDD. Also, I already tweeted about it, but live action Anakin in the Clone Wars outfit. AHHH. Hashtag Ahsoka Tano. Hashtag Ahsoka. Hashtag Anakin. Hashtag Tano Tuesday. Breaking. Latest episode of Ahsoka reminds fans that The Clone Wars was a series they watched once.
It was supported more so by things you recognize than anything substantive to draw from her journey, and it was delivered.
Anakin's a big part of her journey. I'm just gonna put that out there. I didn't even watch Clone Wars or Rebels, and I know enough to know Anakin is part of Ahsoka's journey. It's not exactly, hidden.
But with dialogue about as graceful and considered as a dead elephant trying to play fucking Jenga.
Tell me what's going on.
Battle's not over yet. There are more separatist droids approaching.
This is the Clone Wars!
Trying to die. But who cares, right? These shitty stories don't do well critically or commercially, so eventually they'll have to write something good. I mean, imagine a Star Wars story about the concept of oppressive systems and their construction, destruction, and rippling effects that blur the line of admirable and dubious action. Perhaps this theoretical television series could show us what kinds of people are created and destroyed.
Okay, so obviously his example is Andor, but you do know that Andor is a different series, right? Like, Andor is a series that exists, and it's not Ahsoka. These are two very different series. And I want to stress, like, I prefer Andor to Ahsoka so far, but, like, they're hitting very different cravings. Like, Andor, I like how it's like this ground level, like gritty Star Wars story where, there's no force. These are just the guys on the ground dealing with the shit that the Empire is shoveling at them. And I love that aspect. Whereas Ahsoka is more your fantasy Star Wars, kind of more your classic Star Wars. You got Jedis doing fantastic lightsaber duels. It's awesome. So they're just different elements of Star Wars. They shouldn't all be exactly like Ahsoka, although Ahsoka is more your traditional Star Wars. They definitely shouldn't all be like Andor, because Andor is kind of its own thing, but works really well. Like, it's a unique take. But yeah, Ahsoka, you can't say Ahsoka sucks because it's not Andor, because no shit, it's not Andor. You're supposed to judge it for what it is, not being Andor.
By those very systems. Yeah, they made that. It was called Andor, nobody saw it, and most of the people who gave it a shot thought it was boring. It's gonna get another season.
Most of the stuff I've seen are people liking it. The people who thought it was boring are honestly a lot of the people you hang out with, dude. I'm just saying.
If it's lucky to then be lost to the annals of television history where no one will reference it again. And that's not to imply this was all fucked from the get-go. It could have worked. You could have written this to take inspiration from stories that have nailed this in the past. You could have tried to write a story. Like Leela in Futurama, Ahsoka could have been challenged on her skill by Balin and his commentary on Anakin and Ahsoka's legacy to the point of losing her patience and demanding a one-on-one combat. She could have denied Hu Yang and Sabine's advice to remain a team while taking their opponents on, instead ordering Sabine to take out Shin while Ahsoka shows Balin what a true warrior looks like, echoing Anakin from so long.
I mean, is that necessarily going to be better? Like, just pointing out alternate story takes doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be better. Like, okay, so even if you have a good idea, you still, have to execute it, and we'd have to see the execution to judge whether or not it's better. Again, you haven't really leveled any complaints against this. All you've said is that you don't like any fan service, apparently. And honestly, Anakin being there, you could definitely argue it's fan service because he's dead. So, bringing him back, it's wonky. But, he's a key part of her story. So you could also argue it's not fan service and kind of necessary. It's just, I don't like fan service, and I don't like, honestly, it's coming off like you don't like character stuff, even though the two examples you brought up were very much character stuff. So, it just is coming off as, I don't like Ahsoka, which, again, it's fine, but, it feels like you're making this because other people do like Ahsoka, and you just can't handle that, and that's really childish.
Long ago. Perhaps it seems that Ahsoka is winning her fight, and at the climax, Sabine loses hers to Shin. She gets her legs chopped off in a particularly brutal back and forth. This gives Shin the opportunity to join Balin, and they defeat Ahsoka together, an inverted way to foreshadow the lesson, while giving Balin room to confirm this is all Ahsoka is. A curse on the world. Death is the only thing she has to give, and it's time she faces it herself. So he slashes her off the cliff, leaving her for dead. During her time in this ill-advised world between worlds thing, Anakin could explore the more obvious difficulty she's having in terms of what he and Ahsoka actually brought to the world when they were together, to then move into Ahsoka's insecurity.
Okay, I think it's interesting. I'll say, people liking bad things means we get more dog shit. You're saying liking bad things. What is bad? Because you do understand bad when it comes to media is a subjective opinion. So, just because you think it's bad, there might be a lot of people who think it's good. And what? Do you want to turn into a popularity contest? Or do you I think it's better to just judge everything based on your own metrics. Based on your own feelings watching it, frankly. And you can break down some story elements if you want. You can break down visual elements, sound elements. I actually used to do that. God, those videos took so long. Maybe I'll do something similar at some point. But break down the different elements, like, how's the protagonist and how's their motivation, how's the antagonist, how's their motivation, how are the supporting characters working in the story, how's the overall story, how are the visuals, do they help with the story, how's the sound design, does that help with the story? You can break it all down like that, but it's all pretty fucking subjective in the end. It just is. So, like, just being like, oh, it's bad. Like, it's not like an objective fact. It's just your opinion. Like, I think most people would probably call The Room bad. I would call it bad. But you know what else about The Room? I think that movie is fucking entertaining. Oh my god, it is so much fun. Maybe not the sex scenes, they're a bit much, but it's all subjective, man. It's all subjective.
On that topic being a weakness that has now gotten someone presumably killed. More than that, we could move into the line of masters and padawans, inevitably leading to more potential destruction. That Sabine could become the next wayward student inflicting their malice on the world because of their master's failure. Anakin could remind Ahsoka of the good they did in the Clone Wars. Remind her of the events as they happened. Show her that a hell of a lot more...
Again, that's not the story they chose to tell. And if you dislike the story they told, that's fine. But you haven't really made a case against it yet. Right now, you're just laying out an alternate path. And again, your arguments against it were like, you don't like the lines and you don't like fan service. Okay, like, maybe I'll watch it and think, wow, these lines are really cheesy and the fan service really takes me out of it. Maybe. Maybe I'll agree with you. And, even if I don't agree with you, it doesn't mean your opinion's invalid, but, like, it's not much of a case. It's really not. Like, I would expect... Mauler, you like to do your fucking 6-hour videos. Like, I would expect a detailed breakdown on every element of why this is bad. And you are, for how even long this video is, it's very shallow, frankly. It's very cursory, very surface level. There's not much to it. It's kind of shocking.
Came from the line of masters and padawans than Darth Vader, and even he made the right choice in the end. You could then take inspiration from Buffy. We can reach the core that Ahsoka is exhausted. She spent so much time fighting endless battles and figuring out what impact she'll have on the future that she feels immense guilt for the fact that she knew Sabine might die fighting Shin. And that, just for a moment, seemed like a relief. To relinquish the responsibility of training a Padawan, of continuing this line, of risking another Darth Vader, and then Anakin could give her every line.
Okay, again, so, like, you're bringing up this alternate storyline, and, it sounds fine, but I don't know how to judge it compared to the other one, and again, like, we can play around with fan fiction and alternate theories and shit, but at the end of the day, you need to just judge what was made. Judge the show as is.
Last lesson she would need. That Sabine has made mistakes, but she's not lost. The only way you lose her is to not get out there and fight for her. Fight for the world. And that Ahsoka may have felt what she felt, thought what she thought, and made those mistakes, but no matter what a person does, there's always a pathway back. A person is not simply their mistakes. All of these lessons and introspections, of course, meaning a hell of a lot coming from a post-Return of the Jedi Anakin. However, as it stands, it doesn't seem clear that Ahsoka is all that much concerned about Sabine's fate in this episode at all. Most of the episode is confused, shallow, and absolutely meant to bait fans into a frenzy. Other than that, we had about 40% of the fucking episode devoted to Team Hera wandering about. But who cares? We've got Anakin's...
I mean, you haven't really covered that, so that's the first I've heard of that. Okay.
Skywalker and Ahsoka dueling, we had live-action Clone Wars, we had Darth Vader, and we had the world between worlds, and we had Tamura Morrison's voice, the clone troopers, we had the space whales, we had a battle, we had Rex, and we had Glup Shido, and we had Darth Vader breathing, and we had Anakin. But no, it was Vader, but it was Anakin, but he said Snips, he fucking said Snips, that's what he called her in the cartoon.
Hello, Snips. Hashtag Anakin Skywalker. Anakin Skywalker referencing his son Luke Skywalker Skywalker to Ahsoka meant everything to me. Young Ahsoka heart. Ahsoka, Clone Wars, the Clone Wars. Ahsoka's eyes change after stealing Anakin's saber in
It's a long way to say I'm coping with the fact that people like this.
Episode 5 of Ahsoka, Ahsoka Tano, Ahsoka spoilers. I love the LOTR reference.
Yeah, I know, it's like complaining that he calls her Snips, and it's like that's just seems like a character thing to add. That seems nice.
Where she is now cleansed and is now Ahsoka the White. Also love the baptism imagery to show how she's washing off her sins. Ahsoka the White heart. Ahsoka. Am I the only one who wants a Darth Vader show? Ahsoka. So Mike, are those prequels still the worst soulless cash grabs full of nostalgia bait? You fat fuck. Ahsoka Part 5. Shadow Warrior is currently at a 9.5 rating on IMDb, making it one of the highest rated.
Okay, I do feel a little defensive of Red Letter Media. I think they actually do a decent job breaking stuff down. If you disagree, that's fine, but there's no need to go after Mike Stilcasta.
Star Wars episodes ever. Really should be 9.7 or higher. It's unreal how epic and great this show is. We won, man. Ahsoka.
I found the sting because I was loving Futurama anyway. I found the weight of the world because I was loving Buffy anyway. My love for past work or IPs is what allows me to experience these stories. It got me to the point where I can consider what they mean to me and what they say about the people going through these journeys. They can help me recognize similar experiences in other characters, in other stories, or in people in real life. It's not enough for Leela to kick people while saying, "Hi-ya!" It's not enough for Buffy to say,
"I'm Buffy, the Vampire Slayer, and you are?"
I need the structure, the foundation for substantive elements to actually fucking be there. It can't just be the goddamn jangling of tired old keys rusted from the fucking tears of elated fans coming to...
Again, maybe I'll watch it and I'll agree this episode sucked, but like, what you've described sounds like a thoughtful episode, kind of exploring her past with Anakin and her dealing with her issues with Anakin and the guilt she feels over Anakin, even though what happened to him is clearly not her fault. But, like, she would still, just because she was so close to him, have feelings about that. It feels like a very shallow take from you.
Realize this skin-walking calamity is not what they think it is.
But at least Anakin finally gets to save those he loves from death, like he always wanted.
Bitch, she already did that. And Ahsoka wasn't even remotely close to death. They're making that shit up as much as they made up the mechanics of this...
Wasn't close to death? She was knocked off a cliff. I was actually kind of wondering how they would have her not dead, because it seemed kind of fatal.
Retarded fucking worlds between worlds shit too. But there it was, Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader, doing his thing, and everyone freaked out. Loved it, as much as I'm sure they'll love it weeks from now when it sours like the...
So are you offended that, like, you didn't like the episode? Are you offended that people liked it? Because that's just... Dude. Grow up.
The foul piss that it is. Just like the beloved appearance of Anakin and Vader in Kenobi, until everyone soured on that. Just like the beloved appearance of...
You guys were railing hard against Kenobi. I think Kenobi's alright. I think it's got some really good stuff on it, especially the Obi-Wan Kenobi and Vader stuff. I thought that did an excellent job, because there's that line in A New Hope where Obi-Wan Kenobi talks about how Darth Vader killed Anakin. And that line in A New Hope always felt like, because they Vader wasn't supposed to be Anakin, but they retconned it so he was. And so that line always felt a little wonky. It felt like Obi-Wan just kind of like, hiding the fact that Anakin and Vader were the same person. But Obi-Wan Kenobi in that final fight scene kind of helps explore why Obi-Wan views Vader and Anakin as very different people. And, say what you will, there's lots of shit about that series that you can complain about. Like, why does Reva go after Luke in the last episode is a weird one. Why does, obviously you can make fun of the weird thing where he, hid Leia under the cloak. That was wonky. There's lots of wonky stuff in that series. Absolutely. But, that, moment is fucking gold. I'm sorry.
Cad Bane in Boba Fett until everyone soured on that. Just like the beloved appearance of Luke Skywalker in the finale of Mandalorian Season 2 until everyone soured on that. Just like the...
Okay, so Luke popping up at the end of Mandalorian Season 2 still's pretty cool in my book. The only thing that holds it back is I wish they'd done a better job of de-aging. You know what I'd wish they'd done? I wish they'd brought in Sebastian Stan to play Luke instead of the de-aged Mark Hamill. I think that would have been less distracting.
Just trace it, guys. Trace it all the way back to Patient Zero.
Chewie. We're home.
Ooh, Disney Star Wars. What a twist. I never saw that one coming.
The beloved appearance of the very characters that gave you something meaningful once upon a time being used to regenerate that experience they absolutely did not fucking earn. Ill-suited stewards of a bygone era trying to convince you they're the same as those who gave them the franchises to burn. Countless pathetic iterations marred by an unyielding and prideful ignorance floundering at
Mauler, I'm not sure what your opinion is on Disney Star Wars. Can you give it concisely? I'm not sure. Do you like it? I think he likes it, guys. I'm trying to read between the lines. I think he likes Disney Star Wars. Probably Last Jedi is his favorite. I'm guessing.
every turn to create something meaningful. There's no reason they can't do this forever. There's nothing but reward for the simplest and most surface-level mockery of what once was. When they can grip an entire fan base by the balls with just the sounds of breathing, the colors of light, and a handful of lines, I think it becomes pretty...
Well, it sounds like there was more going on with that episode than just that. Like, it's also the appearance of Darth Vader, the person that Ahsoka probably blames herself for being part of creating, because she was so close to Anakin. People will freak out over, lightsabers and shit. And you know what? If they want to, that's cool. They're allowed to like lightsabers and shit. There's nothing wrong with that. But, it also sounds like there's, cool story beats in this story. And you just are ignoring it to try to clump it in with, oh, lightsaber's cool. And it's a very reductive read.
Obvious. Star Wars cannot grow up.
Is that it? You said the thing, guys.
Episode of Anakin. But also, I didn't really think they knew where they were going with it.
What were you upset about earlier?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Me neither, but this is amazing!
So just jingly keys?
We were talking about Mara Jade earlier on, and who knows?
There's always...
That guy said yes.
Yeah. See, I knew this would happen, which is I give Thrawn, but it's like, as soon as you give them... It must be like if you have a child, you give them a toy, and they're like, yay, what else have you got? And it's like, no, play with Thrawn. Play with Thrawn for a little bit.
It lasted for 30 seconds.
Yeah,
Red. That's red.
Okay. Wow, Mauler, that was a bad take in my opinion. Even, I haven't even seen it, so I may not even like the goddamn episode, but even based on your take, I'm kind of it's not a great review. For 45 minutes while you're bashing it, you don't even really cover the actual episode. It's a very surface level bashing of it, and it's kind of amazingly poorly done. It's amazing how you can go on for 46 minutes and really not say a whole goddamn lot. And it really seems like your goal is to shit on people who do like it, which, honestly, I feel like maybe it might have been better that I haven't seen it, because now I can look at it, like you like to say, a bit more objectively. I don't really have any emotions toward that episode. My only emotions is that I like the stuff leading up to that episode. And just simply from what you described, it sounds like kind of a cool episode. You're complaining, and it's... What you're going over sounds kind of cool and logical, and a logical story progression for her character. That's just what it seems like to me. And and you'll complain, this is pure plot driven, and now we have an episode that's character driven. Oh, well, this episode's filler. It's pick a lane. Literally pick a lane. It really comes off like you are upset that people like this thing that you don't like. And that's got you really, offended. How dare they like this thing I dislike? Well, deal with it. This shit's just subjective. No matter how much you want to push the idea that you can judge this shit objectively, you can't. It's purely subjective. And you're gonna have to just deal with that.
Books, records, films, these things matter. Call me shallow. It's the fucking truth.